With game three in the books and game four approaching tomorrow, the Mavericks definitely have some stuff to do to work on if they want to take back control of the series against the Clippers. What is up, everybody? Lindy End Zone in the building once more. I'm back for the touchdown, taking the lead for the Eagles one video at a time and dropping some buckets for my Dallas Mavericks. If you are new and like this kind of different fandom experience between a Philadelphia and a Dallas team, what are you doing? Drop a like, help me out with the algorithm of YouTube, get this content out there a little bit so I can share more with my Mavs community. Um, if you like what I'm doing, then hit that subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. I'd love to add you to the End Zone family. More touchdowns for us. Fly Eagles fly. You know the deal. And drop some comments. Let me know how I'm doing. But without further ado, I am pleased to be able to give the opportunity of my channel to give you guys some film room analysis. I'm very excited for this episode. I'm going to go over just a few possessions here that kind of really, set the tone in the way of a game as to how the Mavericks attacked the Clippers defense, what they didn't do consistently enough on offense to really maintain control of this basketball game. Now, I know going into this that these five situations were in the first quarter, but it dictated a lot of what was to come in the rest of the game. So we're going to go over that for a little bit, and I'm going to switch the screen. Here we go. So this first possession here, I will title it, we have a good three-point attempt from Kristaps Porzingis. I know it is quite shocking at times. So what happens in this possession here? Luka brings the ball around the perimeter. It's at the 10:04 mark, excuse me, but it really starts to develop at 10:02, so 2 seconds later. So what we're going to see here is that we have a strong presence of defense on the Clippers between Zubats, Reggie Jackson, and Paul George. So what's going to happen here is as Maxi Kleber is sitting behind the defense right now where Paul George and Reggie Jackson are sitting, he's going to cut to the basket, which is going to bring a double team between Marcus Morris, who is near the baseline watching Dorian Finney-Smith, and Reggie Jackson is going to follow. What in turn happens here as I go and slow this down, you see Luka's going to dump the ball. Reggie Jackson is going to be the tail, which brings down Marcus Morris. Now here's the double team where Maxi's not going to have a good shot at the basket. Here, you see he kicks it out to Dorian Finney-Smith on the baseline, which he gets Reggie Jackson on a move, brings a double team once again. Now, this is where it gets interesting. This is a perfect opportunity for a guy like Porzingis to take advantage. What Dorian does here after he attracts a double team, that forces the Clippers big and Zubats to collapse down in the paint to add some defensive help. So Finney-Smith does not get a good shot at the basket. What does that do? Since all five defenders are really around the mid-range form surrounding the box, that leaves a guy like Kristaps Porzingis at the top of the key, wide open for a good three-point shot. Nobody is around there. Now, unfortunately, he misses the basket here, which, Porzingis, you got to knock this down. The other thing I necessarily don't like about this situation is that why is Maxi Kleber the only one under the basket trying to go for this offensive rebound? Everybody else on that offensive possession collapsed. They started to go back down the court as if the Clippers were going to get this ball back. So I mean, other than the lack of effort for an offensive rebound here to try and keep the pressure on the Clippers, being that Dallas was already up 5-0 at this point with all 5 points coming at the hands of Luka Doncic. I just that's one thing about the NBA I don't understand is that there's too many situations where they're really, teams sometimes aren't aggressive enough when it comes to offensive rebounds, and I would like to see that change a little bit. Especially that you already had 4 Clippers down here. The odds are obviously in their favor with trying to get a defensive rebound, but you have to admire the hustle by Maxi Kleber in this situation. So the next part we have to go here, as I go through my notes once more, I got to open up my phone. So the next moment we go here to is the 9:20 mark. We're going to go to the 9:20 mark here in the first quarter. Now this is a defensive set on the hands of Dallas that I really did not like. Let me see if I can get to it for a minute here. I need to better organize my my work, if y'all don't mind me. Okay, now let me see here. Let me see for all right, so we're not quite there yet. We're at the 9:41 moment. Now I think it's after this offensive possession for Dallas that we're going to see the situation that I'm going to dive into here as Hardaway Jr. knocks down to 3. Here come Dallas on their next defensive possession. So now we're going to switch to the 9:20 mark. Now, this is bad defense. This is bad defense to me by Kristaps Porzingis, and I'm going to tell you why. So here we go down the court. We're going to go through as Hardaway Jr. hits the 3 here. Now we're going to go through this a little bit slowly. Now here come the Clippers in their defensive possession. So now what this is what doesn't make sense to me. We're gonna rewind this quick for 1 second. We're gonna watch Hardaway Jr. go for the 3 once more. Now as Dallas gets back on defense, the Clippers in this situation are trying to maintain momentum here. So what's gonna happen is that as Paul George reaches towards the top of the key in this possession, we're going to see Nicholas Batum here draw. He's going to create a screen here for Paul George. Now, what is the one thing that Porzingis fails to do? What KP fails to do here is that he plays the screen wrong. So he follows Batum up too far in a way to meet Paul George off of the screen. So in turn, what happens here? Because Porzingis follows him too far up, you're already allowing Paul George to beat you off of the change of direction. So what Porzingis is thinking in this situation here, what he's thinking is that he's going to take Paul George baseline with where Porzingis positioning is, which was a bad idea. So in turn, you're just allowing Paul George to penetrate off of that screen. You already know Finney-Smith is out of position here. You already have Porzingis beat, which this leads to an easy bucket by Paul George. And we'll just go through the play here. Finney-Smith comes back. Finney-Smith does a good job of hustle to come back on defense and contest this basket, but at the same time, that is more of the matchup that Paul George wants in that situation. He would rather take Finney-Smith than Porzingis at that moment in time. So that point, I did not like how KP came up too far when the screen was being set for Paul George. He was a little too stiff on his feet. He stopped at the wrong time and just let Paul George go right through him and the screen. So the next spot we want to bring up here is the 9-minute mark. We're going to bring up the 9-minute mark here, which is going to be the next defensive possession for the Mavericks here. So we'll go through this. Luka finds his spot here, shoots another 3 in Nicholas Batum's face. He was on fire. Luka was not at fault at all for this game, in my opinion, other than his poor free throw shooting. So at the 9-minute mark here, what's gonna happen is, as you go through, we'll watch this here. That's just a bad foul on Porzingis. So what's going to happen here as we slow it up? This is what I don't like already. In this situation, you already know that Paul George is carrying baseline with Porzingis as the primary defender. What did need to happen here in this situation is that Finney-Smith did not need to bring a double team. Finney-Smith should have stayed on his man Nicholas Batum. I would have rather take of Paul George taking Porzingis baseline and go for a tough shot instead of the wide open opportunity that Nicholas Batum has on this possession, to get a good look at the basket, to where he can either take the three here. He had enough spacing on Porzingis, but because he decided to drive instead, he had positioning on KP. Porzingis did not have enough time to shuffle his feet and go down to the basket, which then drew the foul. So I did not like this defensive possession here. In my opinion, Finney-Smith did not need to bring a double team. I would have rather have taken my chances of Paul George taking Porzingis baseline. Okay, so the next possession here is going to come at the 8:47 mark in the game, so we're going to fast forward to that point, which is going to be after Batum hits his free throw here, the second free throw. We'll go over this for a little bit. Let's see if I can fast forward one more time. Okay, so here's the situation here. You already have – so what happens on this offensive possession is that it looks to me that Luka is sending the offense to where the primary on this play is going to be Porzingis. So what's going to happen in this situation is that Luka is calling for Porzingis to work the high post on the left side. So he's going to get the ball in here, which is then going to bring a double team on the means of Marcus Morris and Reggie Jackson. That's a decent double team. Okay, you got Morris on, but you already know that Porzingis has the matchup in Reggie Jackson. So where Paul George currently is right now, you got a bit of a condensed defensive look right here for the Clippers when you got Paul George and Kawhi Leonard working the high post area. Paul George is watching what Porzingis is going to do, but his primary man right here is Maxi Kleber, while you see Kawhi Leonard on Hardaway Jr. In this situation, if I'm Dorian Finney-Smith, I'm cutting to the basket here to give Porzingis a better look at a pass, because if anything, you're going to be able to draw a foul you're going to have a higher chance of drawing a foul on a guy like either Paul George or Reggie Jackson, which if I'm Finney-Smith, I'm taking that matchup to where if I go baseline here, I'm gonna put my back to the defender, which is going to face towards half court. I'm putting my back to the defender at that angle, and I'm gonna lay this ball off of the glass. Worst case scenario, the shot gets blocked. Best case scenario, he gets a good look at the basket underneath, or he draws a foul. So on this possession here, I would have rather have Dorian Finney-Smith cut instead of settling for the three, even though it was a good three-point look and I was okay with it. But there was a better play to be had in this situation. So we're going to play this through, watching it slowly. Here comes the double team on Porzingis, where he's going to kick it out to Finney-Smith, to where if this pass was any lower of a pass, it could have been deflected by Paul George, which is why I would have rather Finney-Smith cut to the basket while Paul George had his back to him a couple of seconds later, and he would have had a better opportunity to put points on the board. So that's why I did not like this offensive possession. So now the next point here that we want to go to is, oh, I completely botched my bullet points here going through the film. So sorry about that. The next point here is going to come at the 8:27 mark, and this was one of the better plays of the game. So now this comes after a basket by Reggie Jackson. So what we see here as Luka's coming up the court, what Porzingis is going to do is he's going to stutter as if he is creating a screen. But this is a perfect opportunity. This is a perfect play. I don't know why Dallas did not go to this more often, unless they did, and the Clippers read it since they were playing more of a small ball approach at this time because at this point in the game, Dallas was up 14-6. Luka Doncic has already nailed at least 2 threes in Zubac's face. So because Ty Lue was seeing on the defensive side with the Clippers guarding the Mavericks that they were getting the switch. The Mavericks were getting the switch that they wanted with a big playing Luka outside, where Luka's been known to eat up some of these bigs when he's shooting threes. So they took Zubats out of the game. So what happens here is this is should be the golden opportunity in which you want to feature Porzingis going to the basket. And I don't know why this didn't happen more, but I'm just going off of what I see on the film and on the game. So this is at this situation, you already see that Porzingis stuttered in his. You already seen that he stuttered in his movement. So that slows up a guy like Paul George a bit, where Paul George has to work around Porzingis to bring some coverage defense on Luka. So what happens here is that Luka lures Paul George towards the top of the key, forces the double team, and that leaves a runway, a wide open look for Porzingis to go to the basket. He brings Kawhi Leonard over. Leonard is late to set up on his defensive rotation. Porzingis draws the foul on an and one. Perfect play for the Dallas Mavericks here, and they didn't go to it enough, especially when Zubats went to the bench and the Clippers decided to play small ball. I don't know why this didn't happen more. So now the last play we are going to go here is at the 8:11 mark, which is the next offensive possession for Dallas. Now the other point I want to mention here is the idea that when you consider that I didn't see enough of those plays from Porzingis, you have to take advantage of the fact that KP is a pretty good free throw shooter. Porzingis is actually a better free throw shooter than Luka Doncic. So I don't know why Dallas did not want to take advantage of this more than they did from what I've seen in just the first quarter alone. So now we're going to go to the next offensive possession here, and it looks like I paused at just the right time. We're at the 8:11 mark. Now this I jotted down as a bad offensive possession to me, in my opinion. So what's going to happen here is that you have a clutter of defense to where you got Marcus Morris and Reggie Jackson. You got Marcus Morris shadowing Luka a little bit, as his man is primarily Maxi Kleber. But you got Reggie Jackson overwatching Luka. So what happens here is that the main assignment on Finney-Smith is Paul George. So now what should happen here, in my opinion, to kind of split up the floor? Because when we go through this playthrough a little bit, you're going to see that there's too much, there's too many Mavericks on one strong side of the court on the right end of the perimeter. In my opinion on this situation is that Dorian Finney-Smith needs to finish this cut under the basket. Which in turn, since you have your follower and Porzingis on the same side, that would allow a better situation for a pass when Luka tries driving to the basket. See, so right here, Finney-Smith fails to complete the cut, which would bring Paul George away from underneath the basket. Now, if you rewind just a little bit further, we're going to go through this again. Now, this was the offensive possession for the Clippers, but Maxi Kleber gets his hands in there for a pretty good steal. Oop, I hit the wrong button there. We fast forward in a minute. Excuse me. I'm still getting used to this, ladies and gentlemen. So now what happens here is, yeah, so we're gonna watch Finney Smith make this cut. But he stops, he stutters right under the basket and goes the opposite way. So now, in my opinion, if Finney Smith continues to make this cut here and goes left of the baseline, you're going to have Porzingis in a one-on-one matchup with Nicholas Batum, to where you already have three Clippers defenders watching their men just come over half court. So you already have Reggie Jackson watching Luka, you have Marcus Morris watching Maxi Kleber, and you have Kawhi Leonard watching Hardaway Jr. These guys are not paying attention at this point in time to where Porzingis is on the floor because his man is Nicholas Batum. So if Finney Smith finishes this cut here, you're going to leave Porzingis one-on-one with Nicholas Batum, with Porzingis driving to the basket. Paul George is going to be late to aiding in a possible double team, and I feel that this would be another opportunity for Porzingis to draw yet another foul. So we're going to watch. So we're going to watch this. We're going to watch this happen in slow mo. So I show you what I'm talking about. Now watch Finney Smith. Finney Smith does not complete the cut here. So what happens is that you isolate Luka on the left side. You got too much traffic here on the right between Kleber, Hardaway, Porzingis, and Finney Smith. So Luka keeps going down to the basket here. He brought the double team with Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris. You got Paul George sitting underneath. Now, in what universe does Kristaps Porzingis think that he is going to get this ball here? Because what happens is he continues to drive. Luka tries to go up for a shot, which, in my opinion, I still think Luka would have had the basket here if he kept going with it. He already has the arc, and he already has the position where he's in a good spot here. Where best case scenario, in my opinion, or worst case scenario for that matter, Marcus Morris is just going to foul him here. I think that's what the Clippers would have wanted, being that Luka is not a good free throw shooter. But I still think that once Luka went up here, he was going to have a shot at making this basket. So we're going to play this through one more time. Then again, Finney Smith does not finish the cut. I would have liked to see Porzingis penetrate, down the lane here, right down the middle. Doesn't happen. Luka drives the ball here, working on Reggie Jackson. So he's going to spin off of Reggie Jackson. That takes him out. That takes Reggie Jackson out of the play. Marcus Morris is not in good positioning here as Luka brings this ball up. So Luka could have had the basket here, but all in all, I did not like that offensive possession from Dallas because I felt that Finney Smith should have finished the cut, and Porzingis could have had a nice look driving to the basket with which almost could have been a one-on-one opportunity with Nicholas Batum. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So that's just that's just from my point of view, and I know going through the rest of the game, as I said, the Clippers went to this small ball. The Clippers went to this small ball approach. It really threw the Mavericks off a little bit because there wasn't enough. The switches on defense ended up not working because you had faster players out there defensively for the Clippers. There was less 3-point opportunities over the course of the game. Some guys were missing their shots, even though Dallas hit 23 pointers this game. Some of them came at times where they were trying to fight back. But one of the most important things, when it comes to basketball, is setting the tone early. And the first quarter is usually what defines the rest of the 3 quarters for the entirety of the game. And it didn't seem that Dallas had an exact idea on how they were going to attack the Clippers at times, especially when Zubac goes to the bench as early as he does, and he ended up only playing 11 minutes. So being that you were confused, at times when it comes to identity, that allowed the Clippers to settle down and really take it to you from a different angle. But we got Game 4 to look forward to tomorrow, and I hope that things like this for Dallas, being that we're still at home, I hope that they clean some of these up. But that's going to do it for my first film room. It was a little bit choppy, and it was a little bit unsettled. So I hope you guys bear with me. I hope you like some of the breakdowns that I did for y'all. This is all my opinion. If you guys have other viewpoints, I would be glad to debate them with you and look from your point of view. So don't be afraid to drop your thoughts down in the comments as of what you saw from this Mavericks and Clippers matchup for Game 3. That's going to do it for me. This has been Lindy Endzone, Bleed Green, and hashtag MFFL. I'll catch you guys later. Look out for one another, and see you soon.